In today's show, the Trailblazers get thrashed by the Clippers. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about skills we would add to a bunch of the Blazers' core players. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. It's coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, so make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're gonna speed through a Blazers beatdown to the hands of the Clippers, and then I want to get into the core of today's show, which is early in this game, Kris Murray hit a bunch of three-pointers, and it got me thinking about micro skills I would add to a handful of the Blazers' core players to make them a little bit better. We're not talking like big overarching things. We're talking about tiny little details of their game that could help them take things to the next level. We will do that. First, let's do what we do. Talk about the Clippers game. Blazers got beat down by the Clippers. It ended up closer than it was. We'll speed through a true fastest recap in the West and then talk about Kris Murray and Deandre Ayton, a little Anthony Simons as well, Scoot Henderson, in a fun micro skills discussion in today's show. First, let's do what we do though. Blazers lose 116-103. This is your fastest recap in the West. Blazers up 28-27 after one, thanks to Kris Murray's 11 points in the first quarter, 4 of 6 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. Then things went south in a hurry. James Harden got cooking in the second quarter. He hit 4 threes. The third quarter was a nightmare. The Blazers turned the ball over 7 times, and then midway through the quarter, about 2 minutes into the quarter, the Clippers ripped off an 18-2 run to build a 24-point lead, and they never looked back from there. They led 94-70 after 3, and then we had extended garbage time for the final 5 minutes and 46 seconds of this game, a truly meaningless fourth quarter because the Clippers just thrashed the Blazers and they cruise 116-103. We don't need to say very much about this game. I think that's truly fast. That's your fastest recap in the West. Paul George had 27, Kawhi had 24, James Harden had 19 and 14 dimes. Scoot Henderson led the Blazers with 18 points, 2 boards and 5 assists. 12 for Delano Banton off the bench, 12 for Jabari Walker, and Anthony Simons had 14. Kris Murray 17, 7 of 11. He played well. Quiet night for Deandre Ayton, 8 points, 7 boards on 4 of 10 shooting. Throw it out. At this point in the season, I don't know that the results matter that much for the Blazers. The process is more important, but even more than the process, and even more about like preaching, like, don't worry about it. Think about the future. Like, I don't care about that. If you're mad about this game, be mad about this game. They got thrashed. They got beat down. They trailed as many as 27 after a nice first quarter. The game was over after 3 quarters. It was over with like 2 minutes left in the third quarter. It was like, oh, this game's done. We can fast forward to the part where I record a podcast. In that first quarter, though, Kris Murray Kris Murray hit 3 threes in that first quarter. In the previous 5 games combined, he made 3 total 3-pointers, and he hit 3 threes in the first 12 minutes of this one. And that got me thinking, what skills, like little micro skills, would I add to other Trailblazers to improve them? For Kris Murray is obvious. Wide open 3-point shooting. Real quick on micro skills. I think one of the interesting things about basketball is there's a cajillion little things you can be good at. I think on offense, we tend to agree that there's a bunch of little skills. Dribbling, passing, shooting, making layups, shooting 3-pointers, shooting mid-range shots, post-game, floaters, all that stuff. Like, there's a million little things. But there's also, like, getting separation with your weekend. There's like a million little, like, minutia stuff. But I think we tend to agree as a sort of a general discussion-based public that offense is built of a bunch of million different skills, and that defense is one thing. People say, okay, here's all the stuff he needs to improve on offense, and also he needs to get better at defense. Defense is also a million different things. So like when I'm going to talk about micro skills to improve here, but I'm really talking about like small things, specific little parts of everyone's game, or not everyone's, but four players I've got picked out game to improve. Broadly speaking, the Blazers have a bunch of players that can improve in a bunch of places, and I think that's the hope for the future of this team is that there is, as I mentioned on yesterday's show, this group is ripe for some internal improvement next year. Youngsters like Jabari Walker and Toumani Camara, as well, throwing Kris Murray in there as well, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, even their young veterans like Anthony Simons and Deandre Ayton. There's still some hope that there's some more to their game that they can get to. Right there's big bold strokes that the guys can improve at. I'm talking about little things, and the little thing I want to talk about with Kris Murray, and this struck me in this first quarter. What if he just made open shots? People say I think a common refrain from people talking about Kris Murray is like, well, if he could just shoot. But shooting there's a bunch of different flavors of shooting three-pointers. It's shoot off the dribble, shoot off the catch, shoot when you're standing still, shoot when you're running off the catch and like run to a spot, catch it and go up. That movement shooting, that standstill shooting, the dribble off the dribble shooting. There are certain varieties of like, even when you're saying like, if you could just shoot from three. I'm talking about even more minute than that. What if he just made the wide open ones? ESPN. NBA.com tracks threes that by distance of defender. And when the defenders are 6 or more feet away from Kris Murray, he shoots 24.4% on three-pointers. 24.4% on unguarded threes, wide open. All of his threes, the first 5 of his threes, open. I don't know wide open, but the ones he made, wide open. I can't say that I was charting and tracking the misses, and then he took a deep pull-up three against the clock at the end of the first quarter, which he probably was wide open, but it's like a 34-footer. I don't think it really counts. But of his three makes, it took 5. He made three threes in that first quarter. Of those 3 threes, like unguarded, he's in the corner. One of them was a really nice pass from Deandre Ayton, where I thought I was like, shoot it, Da, but Da swung to the corner and he made a really and Kris got a good shot, and he's parked in the corner, made 3 corner threes, butt naked, right? 24.4% on wide open threes. Overall, coming into this game, Kris Murray was shooting 26% on threes. A little bit better, like slightly better on catch and shoots, 26.9. When he dribbles, he's a shade worse, but basically shoots slightly less than, like right around 27% on three-pointers. If you count most of his looks are going to be catch and shoot looks. But like unguarded, shooting under 25%, making less than a quarter of your wide open threes. And when you start missing wide open threes, guess what? You get more wide open threes. They're not going to guard you because you got to choose in the NBA, right? You got to choose who you help off of. They keep choosing 8. Right? Keep choosing number 8. 24.4% on wide open threes. The micro skill that I want Kris Murray to improve at is stand still, wide open threes. What if he made 45%? 45% of his unguarded, like truly practice level threes in an NBA game. He'd be a totally different basketball player. He wouldn't get very many wide open threes if he made 45% of the wide open ones. But that's like, that's 100% increase in accuracy from 24%, basically. I think that is the micro skill. Like, I think there's other stuff that Murray could improve at, right? And I think there's the three-point shooting on the whole. He certainly needs to get better. But what if he just knocked down wide open threes? What if that little skill was there? He's a totally different basketball player if that's the case. I got a couple other ones, including Deandre Ayton, mirroring some other players in the league who shoot jumpers. Like, what about if he played a little bit more like Jaren Jackson Jr. or even All-Star Carl Anthony Towns. That's a fake gasp for you. That's a Thursday show fake gasp. Thanks for listening. Let's talk about Deandre Ayton and the micro skill I'd love to add to his game in the second segment. First, I want to tell you about Nissan. And they got a whole lineup of cars that you're going to love. If you're the kind of driver who likes to push things further, or if you ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level, like the 2024 Nissan Rogue, which is perfect for city drives and for great escapes. It's got class exclusive Google built into your always updating assistant you can call on for almost everything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. You don't got to do that anymore. Instead, you've got Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play, built right into a 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. It's a 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Plus, it's got tech in there that's going to get you where you need to go. It's going to play the tunes along the way, and it's going to give you the map to make sure you get where you're going. Also, what about the 2024 Nissan Armada? It's going to change what you expect from a full-size SUV. You're talking about a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. Tow bigger, explore further in that 2024 Nissan Armada. Take that Nissan Armada, the Nissan Rogue, or the Nissan Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel is going to let you bet on every game of the NCAA tournament. You are listening to Thursday's show, Thursday, March 21st show. It's the first full day of the tournament, one of the great days of the year, the beginning of the NCAA tournament. So whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing with America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all with futures bets. If you want to get spicy, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. All right. We're talking micro skills, what we'd add to players, what I would add to players. You might have your own. In fact, if you do have your own, comment below if you're watching on YouTube or send me an email, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. What micro skill would you add to your preferred Blazer player to up their game? This next one is near and dear to the podcast because I've whined a little bit about Deandre Ayton's game. He's not played well tonight, but over the last couple weeks he's been hooping, and he's been the best version of himself. He did not have a good game tonight, but like he kind of just does what he does. He takes mid-range jump shots. He's improved as a passer a little bit this year, but for the most part, when he gets the ball, he takes mid-range jump shots. He doesn't really shoot. He does not shoot threes. He doesn't really get to the rim. He doesn't get fouled. Like he's gonna win from 4 feet to 20 feet, or he's gonna lose. Like that's kind of who he is. So if I were adding a micro skill to the Deandre Ayton arsenal, what I'd like to add is a show and go game. The person I was thinking of when I said this is Jaren Jackson Jr. because Jaren Jackson Jr. has a really slow pump fake. He shows the whole ball. I'll pantomime for you if you're watching on YouTube. He shows the whole ball with two hands, like Al Jefferson style. Shows the whole ball with two hands, and then he takes a long stride and kind of uses his length to get inside. He doesn't blow by people with crazy athleticism. He's big, and he uses the threat of being a jump shooter to get himself to the rim or get himself a little bit closer. And then he like classically spins and gets fouled and like whatever. But the pump fake. Jaren Jackson Jr. weaponizes the pump fake really well, and he uses the threat of shooting to kind of offset that. He doesn't have a lot of wiggle with his dribble game, but he's competent enough that if you jump or if you move, particularly if you're a big guy closing out on him, because he's a big guy, right? He's going to get guarded by power forwards and centers. Show the ball. They're going to try to contest, and then use your threat to get yourself deeper to where you want to go. I want Deandre Ayton to add the Jaren Jackson Jr. show and go. But if I was really being greedy, I would say Karl-Anthony Towns because I think he's better at it. I think he's a better driver, and he passes off the drive better than Jaren Jackson Jr. And he's got like float game and one game, and he's scarier with the show and go. But I started like when I was like watching DA and kind of thinking about it. The name that came into my mind was Jaren Jackson Jr. I think Alperen Şengün does this really well. Obviously, Nikola Jokic does this he's maybe the best player, maybe the best basketball player in the world. So like, yeah, his pump fake and then like slow motion drive into a floater. He's the floater king. Like quietly, the best part of not quietly if you listen to Locked On Nuggets and my man Adam Mares, but like Jokic's best skill is that he makes floaters better than anyone else. Like that floater range touch is just outrageous. And he uses his pump fake to get himself into space. He's like weirdly slower than you and faster than you at the same time. I don't think DA is going to be Jokic. I don't think DA is going to be Cat. So let's settle on Jaren Jackson Jr. 2-hand pump fake, show the ball and go. I did a little research on this, as I am wont to do. I'm someone who loves public data. I love a little public data. And on NBA.com, I checked out their public data. They got tracking data on how many shot attempts come with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3+ dribbles, all that. 80.7% of Deandre Ayton's field goal attempts come with 0 or 1 dribbles. He's getting it, he's shooting it. I mean, you see him, you get it, pump fake, or jab step, shoot. Jab step, one dribble, one dribble to get your balance, shoot. 80% of his field goal attempts come on 0 or 1 dribbles. 42%, the other, that's 81%. The other 19% come on 2+ dribbles. He's not attacking that much. Like, it's just not in his game right now. It's not in his game. When he takes 0 or 1 dribbles, 1 or fewer dribbles, this is the way to say that actually, 1 or fewer dribbles, he shoots 63% from the floor. It's really good. And again, he's only taking mid-range jump shots. Look at his shot chart. He gets putbacks too, I guess. But like putbacks and jumpers, 63% on 0 or on 1 or fewer dribbles. 2+ dribbles, that number goes down to 42%, 41.9%. DA needs to add the show and go. He needs to add to his arsenal. The micro skill is that little show and go. Show the ball with 2 hands. Get him in the air. Everyone knows DA is money from 15 feet. Watch how they guard him. Watch how they guard him in pick and rolls. Teams know, that that's the place he wants to shoot from, and he's not going to do anything else. So if you close out hard, then they're not scared. And that's why you see even small guys really crowd him on catches when he's going to shoot, because they know he wants to shoot, and he's not going to smash. He's not going to smash you in the post on switches. Like, if I know, they know. I would love him to add that to his game. I don't know how they track this, so I didn't lead with this. According to NBA.com, they only have Deandre Ayton at 1.4 drives per game. I mean, that tracks with that makes sense to me if 80.7% are 1 or on his field goal attempts are 1 or fewer dribbles. It's not dribbling to the rim. You take 1 dribble, you're side dribbling, you're taking 1 dribble forward. 2 dribbles towards the basket. Again, he's shooting 20% less on when he dribbles a second time or more. But 1.4 drives per game. Jaren Jackson Jr. 10.7 drives per game. He's attacking. He is interested in getting into the paint. He's interested in slow motion spin moves is what he's interested in. But like, he attacks. He really. And he's not doing it with blinding speed. It's a show and go. It's a show and go. DA needs to add that show and go. Is he gonna like 10x his drives? I don't think so. But like, if he just did it, I don't know, 100% more would be 2 a game, right? 3 a game, I guess, if he's at 1.4. 3 a game. Let's get 100% more. 3 drives a game from DA when he attacks the rim, and he attacks the rim by using the thing he's already good at. That's the important part of this micro skill. The thing he's really good at is shooting from 15 to 17 feet. They're going to come close out hard on you. They're going to crowd your space, crowd your shooting pocket, crowd you on the catch. Show them the ball. You're bigger than them, and you don't need elaborate moves if you show and go. You need a one drip. Show them the ball, get them to lift their eyebrows, lift their shoulders, and just get past them with your frame and get inside. You get more free throws that way. You get shots a little bit closer to the rim. That's the micro skill. The show and go is the micro skill. Specifically, the Jaren Jackson Jr. Show and go is what I would love Deandre Ayton to add. I got two more about the Blazers point guard duo, Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson. Let's talk about them to close the show. But first, I want to tell you that this next segment is brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. If you're thinking about starting therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? All of us have challenges, big ones, small ones. It can be immensely valuable to talk to someone who's unbiased and impartial, and someone who can just listen to you and what you've got going on, and then try to help you develop the skills so you can be the better version of yourself, and you can work through the minor hiccups in your life and also the major ones. I think I've used this analogy before, but think about therapy as either, if it can be really helpful if it's a major traumatic event, but it can also just be routine maintenance. The way you take care of your car, you take it into the shop at 50 and 75 and 100,000 miles to make sure that it's running well, and you can get yourself into the shop for routine maintenance and talk to someone about what you're going through, just so the bumps in the road don't give you as much trouble. Like I said, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. So visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Talking micro skills, the little things we would add to improve players' games. I want to talk about the two Blazers point guards. Start with Anthony Simons. Two Blazers point guards, they play together in the backcourt, kind of maybe showing my hand about how I feel about the Blazers' future in the backcourt. They've already picked one, but pick them already. There are plenty of things that I think Anthony Simons could improve at. I think this is a micro versus macro skills discussion, right? The macro people are screaming, defense, he's got to improve a defense. There's like a cajillion different ways to play defense. Think about the difference between sort of the way Toumani Camara plays defense versus the way Matisse Thybulle plays defense. They're both good defensive players, you would say, but they're very, very different in their approach. This is the micro skills of defense. So instead of like the broad brush of saying Anthony Simons become a better defender, incredibly important that he becomes at least somewhat. I think he's improved each of the last two seasons, and yet he's still very bad. But the micro skill I would actually add that I think is like a little more realistic and a little more sort of in the range is the Trae Young hook pass. Trae Young is a lot of things, but the thing he is best at is passing. I don't know that everyone who watches Trae Young agrees with me there, but when I think his best skill is that he's a great playmaker, an elite playmaker. I think that's what makes Trae Young special, is that he can pass so dang well. But what I love about watching him is that he has thinning hair. Now, what I love about watching him, I can relate, I'm like, that's my guy. But what I love about watching Trae Young is that he passes off the dribble so damn well. He can throw a hook pass and a pass off the bounce with either hand, and he can manipulate and come off the screen and stare down the help. Like really good passers are not staring at the player in front of them, or the two guys that are guarding the pick and roll. They're staring at the help defender, the third guy, and they're manipulating. Like, okay, the low man's going to come here. I'm going to look him off, and whoop, make a pass. And Trae Young is as good at it as anyone, at making passes off the bounce with either hand, especially those hook passes. What I'm talking about is like the over the head hook. I'm pantomiming again on YouTube. A money YouTube, because you can see me working on my basketball skills, two hand pump fakes and hook passes. Trey's really good at that. He throws a bunch of different passes, but that pass specifically off the bounce, that hook pass, I think that would open up so much for Anfernee Simons. One of the big problems for Simons right now in his game is that he struggles with physical double teams. One of the best ways that he could deal with physical double teams is timing that pass out. I think a lot of times he's like sees it, tries to accept the double team. A big important part of getting double teamed is accepting it, is saying like, yes, I'll bring two to the ball, and when I get two to the ball, we create an advantage. Like, you got to be an advantage creator. Anfernee Simons is the only one on the team that gets double teams like that. When you have that responsibility of someone who sees two defenders, you have to accept it, right? Like, that's your responsibility is to create that advantage, to get two defenders on the ball. And when you get two on the ball, then you make a move. But Simons can get, and I think this happened against the Clippers a handful of times, Amir Coffey gave him trouble. Kawhi Leonard had a play where he deflected a pass and he just bullied Anfernee Simons down the court. Strength, not a macro skill. And it could stand to get stronger. It's probably core strength is where it is. I don't know. I'm not a plyo guy. Sports scientist? Hit me up, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. But I think why I'm talking about this Trae Young micro skill is that ability to stretch out a double team a little bit further and then throw those hook passes with confidence, read help defenders, read pressure defenses, and throw a pass with either hand. If you watch Anfernee Simons a bunch, he'll throw a behind the back pass. Maybe twice a week he'll throw these. Only ever with his right hand. The micro skill of being able to pass with your left hand, the skill of being able to pass with your left hand is probably not micro. That's probably macro. That's probably a big skill, right? Like offhand passing. Offhand passing was actually probably a micro skill. I think Ant can improve there a bunch, and particularly the hook pass. What I'm talking about is throwing over the top of double teams or timing a pass that you throw, and a hook can be a lob or a hook can be with pace as a dart. It can be, it can be a big skip. It can be a small skip. Like that pass, throwing it over the top of your head and over the top of the outstretched defense that's closing in on you, it gives you a bunch of different options, particularly off the bounce. Like when you are dribbling, when you have a live dribble to throw that pass. If Ant had that with both hands, he would handle double teams a lot better. He doesn't have that right now. That's the skill I would add for him. The last one is Scoot Henderson. Scoot's a macro dude. He's macro dude. Scoot's got so many things he's got to get better at. You name it. name a basketball thing Scoot's got to get better at. I will say this. Scoot had a solid game, not like a great one, but a solid, it's 6 of 15 from the floor, but solid game against the Clippers, like 18 and 5 dimes. But, he hasn't played that well in a minute, so I don't mean to say like he stinks, but he has been struggling recently. But the thing I would add for Scoot is the Mike Conley offhand floater. Michael Conley's left-handed as heck, except when he gets into the paint, and he shoots right-handed floaters almost exclusively right-handed floaters when he gets in the paint. He's incredible at it. It's why he's still cooking in his mid-30s. It's why he just got paid into his late 30s. Like, because, he's been good and he's really good for a long time. But, because he has this sort of in-between touch, and particularly because he has that offhand touch where he can keep you off balance because he's like, oh, he's so left-handed, shut down his left hand, make him go, weak him as NBA parlance, like send him to his weak hand. You'll hear coaches yell that sometimes on, if you are a League Pass watcher, weak. Particularly Nick Nurse. He's always yelling that. But you can't weak Mike Conley because if he gets downhill and gets within, 11 feet, he can take a right-hand floater, no problem. I would love for Scoot to add that. And why I say offhand floater, the left-hand floater, is because typically, if you're a basketball player, your best crossover is from your dominant hand to your weak hand. So if you're right-handed, that hard right to left crossover is your best cross. Some guys are better at other, and it's not universal, but typically for most basketball players, your best crossover is your dominant hand to your weak hand, that right to left. And Scoot, he's pretty good left to right, like with a low cross, but he can get himself to his left pretty well. It's just he wants to get back to his right hand. So what I'm thinking for Scoot to add this Conley floater is he doesn't have to get all the way to the rim, where I think sometimes he looks small when he gets all the way to the rim, is that he could stop short. He could use that first little bit of explosion to get himself free, and then that middle touch. Like, I believe David Thorpe of True Hoop calls it the lower box, or the third box, which is that area below the 3-point line, the third box, below the 3-point line, but before the restricted area. Scoot's actually pretty good in that area. It's just he doesn't take many. He has a really low frequency of attempts there, but that's floater range, and particularly hard right to left crossover gets your left hand. Put in your offhand floater, like Mike Conley. If he could develop that, it's like a flow game in general for Scoot. But again, he's like a macro guy. He has a million things to work on. He's young. But like a small thing is if he had the Mike Conley offhand floater, that really opens up his game, because if you have to worry about him stopping short and taking those little push shots, it opens up a lot more at the rim. It changes the way you have to guard him in pick and rolls, and like how far you drop back, and teams are really dropping off him and daring him to shoot. I think that offhand floater, particularly with his ability to get into the paint, would change it for him. That third box, as David Thorpe calls it. Okay, those are your micro skills. That's only 4 guys. Kris Murray, Deandre Ayton, every time, and Scoot Henderson. If you have a micro skill, like a tiny little thing or a tiny little thing you'd steal from one other NBA player and add it to a Blazer player, comment in the YouTube section below or send me an email, lockedonblazerspod.com, and I'll share some good ones in a future episode. Speaking of future episodes, we got another one tomorrow. It's what we do, baby. Blazers are heading into a back-to-back. They play the Clippers again on Friday, the second of 2, rather. And then they play the Nuggets. That's your defending champion Denver Nuggets Saturday. Not exactly an easy one, but we will talk about those games, and we will take a spin on the Tankathon, as well as a check-in on the first day of the NCAA tournaments, 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. We're having fun. Tell your friends about it. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.